Wu sat in the back row of the lecture hall and tried to ignore the stares. He was used to it by now. Being one of only 15 humans at the Galactic Academy made him stand out like a sore thumb. The other students were all different shapes and sizes. Some had scales, some had fur, and some had shells that clicked when they moved. The instructor walked into the room. His name was, and he was they were famous across the galaxy as the best hunters, stood over 8 feet tall. His body was covered in sleek purple scales that shimmered under the lights. He had 4 arms, each ending in claws that could slice through metal. His yellow eyes scanned the room with the confidence of a creature that had never been prey. "Today we discuss the art of the hunt," announced. His voice was deep and smooth. "Hunting is not about luck. It is about superior biology. It is about having the right tools built into your body." Wu glanced at his friend Bomi, who sat 2 seats away. She rolled her eyes slightly. They had both heard this speech before, loved to talk about how some species were born hunters and others were not. Activated the holographic display. Images of various predators appeared in the air. There was a with its powerful jaws, a with its venomous stingers, a taking down prey 3 times its size. "Notice the common features," continued. "Natural weapons, enhanced speed, superior senses, armor plating. These are the marks of a true predator." He paused and his eyes landed on Wu. "Some species have these gifts, others do not." A few students turned to look at Wu. He kept his face neutral. "Humans, for example," said, zooming in on an image of a human anatomy chart. "No claws, no fangs, no venom, no natural armor. No enhanced speed. You're as classified as a death world, yet you have none of the tools that other death world species possess. Tell me, Cadet Wu, how did your species survive?" Wu stood up slowly. "We adapted, Instructor." "Adapted?" laughed. It was not a friendly sound. "You mean you hid, you scavenged. You waited for real predators to make their kills, then stole the leftovers. This is not hunting. This is survival through cowardice." Bomi clenched her fists, but Wu touched her arm gently. He had learned not to argue with. The instructor had already made up his mind about humans. "Let me be clear," said, addressing the whole class now. "Humans are not hunters. They are endurance scavengers at best. They have no place in the hunt except as prey." The lecture continued for another hour, showed videos of successful hunts from various species. Each one highlighted natural advantages. Each one made his point clear. When the lecture ended, made an announcement. "Your final examination will take place in 2 weeks. You will be sent to the 9 Preserve. This is a death world habitat where we keep specimens of the galaxy's most dangerous predators. Your task is simple. Track and document 3 apex predators. Bring back proof of your encounters. Those who succeed will graduate. Those who fail will repeat the course." Excited chatter filled the room. 9 was legendary. It was dangerous, but it was also where hunters proved themselves. "I will now assign your sectors," said. He pulled up a map of the preserve. It was divided into different zones, each marked with difficulty ratings and the predators that lived there. One by one, students received their assignments. A large got a sector with moderate difficulty. N got a challenging zone with flying predators. Bomi received a coastal region with aquatic hunters. Finally looked at Wu. A smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Cadet Wu, I have a special assignment for you." The map zoomed in on a sector marked in red. Warning symbols covered it. The difficulty rating was listed as extreme. "Sector 13, announced. "Home to 3 of the most lethal creatures in our collection. The pack hunters with sonic attacks, the thornbacks, armored ambush predators with acid blood, and a stealth predator that has killed more experienced hunters than I care to count." The room went silent. Even the most confident students looked worried. Sector 13 was known as the killing fields. Very few hunters ever volunteered to go there. "Instructor," Bomi said, standing up. "That sector is rated for expert-level hunters only. Wu is still a cadet. Which is why I have adjusted the requirements, said smoothly. Other students must document 3 predators. Cadet Wu must document only 3 predators as well. The same task, perfectly fair. But those 3 predators Bomi started. Are perfect examples of what real hunters look like, interrupted. If humans are truly capable of hunting, as some claim, then this should be no problem. Unless, of course, I am correct, and humans are simply scavengers pretending to be predators. Wu looked at the map. Sector 13 was huge. The terrain was varied and deadly. The predators were intelligent and experienced. It was designed to be nearly impossible. I accept, Wu said quietly. Smile widened. Excellent. I do hope you survive, Cadet. It would be unfortunate if we lost a student. However, I expect you will return empty-handed. Perhaps then you will understand your place in the galaxy. You are not predators. You are clever prey, nothing more. The class was dismissed. As students filed out, several gave Wu sympathetic looks. A few whispered that he should refuse the assignment or file a complaint. But Wu knew that would not help, wanted to prove a point, and refusing would only prove it for him. Bomi walked beside Wu as they left the building. This is insane. He is trying to get you killed. Maybe, Wu agreed. You should talk to Administrator Ma. She is human. She will understand. Wu shook his head. That would only make it worse. Would say I need special treatment because humans are weak. So what will you do? Wu stopped walking and looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there was 9, waiting for him, waiting with its predators and its dangers. I will hunt, he said simply, but not the way thinks I will, not the way a hunts. I will hunt the way humans have always hunted, the way we became the apex predators on Earth. Bomi frowned. What way is that? Wu smiled slightly, with patience, with intelligence, and with respect. 2 weeks later, Wu stood at the transport bay. His gear was minimal, a tracking beacon so the Academy could find his body if things went wrong, a recording drone to document his encounters, standard survival supplies, no weapons beyond a simple knife. Those were the rules. Was there to see him off. Last chance to withdraw, Cadet. No shame in admitting your limitations. Wu looked the instructor in his yellow eyes. See you in 3 weeks, Instructor, with my documentation complete. Laughed as Wu boarded the transport. I expect you back begging for rescue within 3 days. Try not to die too quickly, human. The transport doors closed. Wu sat alone as the ship carried him toward 9, toward the killing fields, toward 3 of the deadliest predators in the galaxy. He was not afraid. He was focused. His ancestors had survived saber-toothed cats and cave bears. They had outlasted mammoths and dire wolves. They had become the most successful predator Earth had ever seen, not through strength, but through something did not understand. The ship entered orbit around 9. Through the window, Wu could see the death world below, dense jungles, jagged mountains, dark valleys. The hunt was about to begin. The landing pod hit the ground hard. Wu felt the impact through his seat as the safety harness dug into his shoulders. The door hissed open, and the sounds of 9 flooded in. Everything was loud. Birds screeched in the canopy above. Insects buzzed in swarms. Something large moved through the undergrowth nearby, making the leaves rustle. The air was thick and humid. It smelled like wet earth and rotting vegetation. Wu stepped out onto the mossy ground. His recording drone activated automatically and began hovering around him. It would follow him everywhere, documenting everything. If he died, at least the Academy would know how it happened. Drone begin mission log, Wu said. Cadet Wu entering Sector 13. Objective, locate and document 3 apex predators, thornbacks and... The drone beeped in acknowledgement. Its red light blinked as it recorded. Wu pulled out his portable scanner. It showed a basic map of the sector, 50 square kilometers of deadly terrain, Rivers, caves, cliffs, and dense jungle. Somewhere in all of that were his targets. He checked his supplies, 3 weeks of food, water purification tablets, basic medical kit, rope, fire-starting tools, a knife, that was it. No weapons, no armor, just what a human could carry. The landing pod's engines fired up behind him. It lifted off, heading back to orbit. Wu watched it disappear into the clouds. He was alone now. He started walking. The forest was different from anything on Earth. The trees had purple bark and leaves that seemed to shift colors in the light. Vines hung down like curtains. The ground was spongy and covered in strange mushrooms that glowed faintly. Wu moved carefully. He stepped over roots and avoided patches of bright-colored plants. On death worlds, bright colors usually meant poison. He had studied this before coming. 9 had dozens of ways to kill someone who was not paying attention. After an hour of walking, he found what he was looking for, a clearing. In the center was a large boulder that gave a view of the surrounding area. Wu climbed up and sat down. Then he waited. The drone buzzed around him, confused. Query: why has movement stopped? Objective requires locating predators. I am locating them, Wu said quietly. I am just doing it my way. He sat for 3 hours. During that time, he watched everything. He noted which direction the wind blew. He observed where animals went to drink water. He saw how the light changed as the sun moved across the sky. He listened to the sounds of the forest and began to recognize patterns. A crack of branches to the north meant something large. A certain bird call meant danger. When the insects went quiet, it meant a predator was near. Wu was not hunting yet, he was learning. On Earth, his ancestors had done the same thing. They had not rushed into danger. They had watched. They had learned. They had understood their environment before they acted. That was the human way. As the sun began to set, Wu climbed down from his boulder. He found a cave entrance nearby. It was small and shallow. Good. Nothing large could be hiding inside. He checked for snakes or insects, found none, and made camp. He did not light a fire. Fire would attract attention. Instead, he ate cold rations and drank water. The drone settled on a rock beside him, still recording. Mission log day 1, Wu said to the drone. No contact with target predators yet. Spent the day observing the environment. Initial impressions. Sector 13 is a complete ecosystem. High biodiversity. Multiple predator species competing for territory. I have identified 3 water sources and 2 game trails. Tomorrow I will follow the trails. The drone beeped. Query: method would be to track prey directly. Human method appears inefficient. Wu smiled. Method relies on superior speed and strength. Humans do not have those, we have something else. Patience. Time is on our side. He slept in shifts that night. 2 hours asleep, 1 hour awake and listening. It was an old human trick. Prey animals slept deeply because they needed rest. Predators stayed alert because they needed to hunt. Humans did both. They could rest and remain aware at the same time. In the middle of the night, Wu heard it. A sound like nothing he had ever heard before. It started as a low hum that made his teeth ache. Then it rose in pitch until it was almost painful. The sound echoed through the forest. Wu crawled to the cave entrance and looked up. The moons of 9 provided enough light to see by. High above, shapes moved against the stars. They were large, at least the size of Earth eagles. They flew in formation, circling something in the distance. The drone recorded everything. Target species identified, pack hunting aerial predators, sonic attacks used to disorient prey. Wu counted 7 of them. They were hunting something on the ground. He watched them dive one by one, their screeches coordinated. They were working together, driving their prey into a trap. Smart, very smart. After the hunt ended, they flew away to the east. Wu noted the direction. Tomorrow he would go that way, not to confront them, just to watch. Day 2 began early. Wu followed the game trail east. He moved slowly and stopped often. Every few minutes he paused to look and listen. The forest was full of dangers, and there were just one of them. Around midday, he found what he was looking for, a tall tree with a thick trunk and good branches. Wu climbed up carefully. From high in the canopy, he could see across the forest. In the distance was a rocky outcropping. That was where they had flown last night. He made his way there, taking hours to cover just 2 kilometers. When he arrived, he found their roosting site. The rocks were covered in old bones and dried blood. This was where they brought their kills. Wu did not get close. Instead, he found another tree about 100 meters away. He climbed up and settled into a comfortable position. Then he waited. They returned at sunset. 7 of them landed on the rocks. They were magnificent creatures. Their wings were a deep blue color with patterns that shimmered. Their heads were sleek and narrow. Their beaks looked sharp enough to pierce metal. But what interested Wu most was how they behaved. They did not fight over food. They took turns eating. They cleaned each other's feathers. They made soft clicking sounds that seemed to be communication. They were not mindless killing machines. They were intelligent. They had social bonds. Wu watched them for 3 days. He learned their patterns. They hunted at dawn and dusk. During the day, they rested. They had a specific order for takeoff and landing. The largest one always went first. That one was the leader. They had patrol routes. They flew the same paths each day, marking their territory with their sonic calls. They avoided certain areas of the forest. That meant other predators lived there, predators that even they respected. On the 4th day, Wu made his move. He waited until they left for their morning hunt. Then he approached their roosting site. He did not disturb anything. He just planted a small marker nearby, the kind that would show up on his scanner. Then he did something that would have made laugh. He left food. It was one of his rations, meat paste in a sealed container. He opened it and placed it on a flat rock where they would see it. Then he retreated back to his observation tree. They returned at dusk. The leader spotted the food immediately. It approached cautiously, head tilted. It called to the others and they all gathered around. They smelled the food. They looked around, searching for danger. Then the leader ate it, just a bite. The others watched. When nothing bad happened, they relaxed slightly. The leader made a soft sound that the others repeated. Wu smiled. First contact established. Over the next week, Wu continued his observations. Each day he left a small amount of food. Each day they found it. They began to expect it. They started arriving earlier, watching the area where the food appeared. They never saw Wu, he was too careful, but they knew something was leaving food for them, something that was not a threat. Meanwhile, Wu learned everything about them. He recorded their calls and learned to recognize different meanings. He documented their hunting techniques. He noted which areas they controlled and which they avoided. His drone recorded all of it, complete behavioral documentation, more than any hunter had ever gathered on before. But Wu was not finished. They were just one of his targets. On day 12, Wu ventured into the areas they avoided. These were darker parts of the forest. The trees grew closer together. The ground was rocky and full of crevices. His scanner showed cave systems beneath his feet. This was thornback territory. Thornbacks were different from. They did not hunt in packs. They were solitary ambush predators. They hid and waited for prey to come to them. Then they struck with incredible speed. Finding them would be harder, but Wu had time. He always had time. He found tracks first. Deep gouges in the soft earth where claws had scraped. Acid burns on rocks where blood had dripped. A trail of destruction leading into a cave system. Wu did not follow it inside. That would be stupid. Instead, he found a position overlooking the cave entrance. He climbed a tree and waited. The thornback emerged 3 days later. It was massive, easily the size of an earth rhinoceros. Its body was covered in overlapping plates of armor that looked like stone. Spikes ran down its back. Its head was broad and flat with small eyes that glowed yellow. Its tail ended in a club covered in more spikes. Wu held his breath as the creature walked past his tree. It moved surprisingly quietly for something so large. Its armor did not clank. Its feet found solid ground without making noise. The thornback headed toward a small clearing. Wu watched it lie down in the underbrush. Then it went completely still. If he had not seen it move there, he would have thought it was just a boulder. This was how thornbacks hunted. They looked like part of the landscape. Prey animals would walk right up to them. Then, too late, they would realize their mistake. Wu understood. The thornback was patient just like him. It could wait for days without moving. It did not waste energy chasing prey. It let prey come to it. He could respect that. For the next week, Wu studied the thornback. He learned its schedule. Every 3 days, it moved to a new ambush point. It always chose places near water or food sources, places where prey would come naturally. It was smart, deadly smart. But what surprised Wu most was how careful it was. The thornback avoided the territory. It never hunted in the same place twice in a row. It covered its tracks after making a kill. This was not just instinct. This was intelligence. The thornback was thinking and planning. Wu's documentation was now incredibly detailed. 2 apex predators completely recorded. Their habits, their territories, their intelligence. Information no one else had ever gathered. But the third predator was still out there. The one that no hunter had ever successfully tracked. Wu had been on 9 for 2 weeks. He had 1 week left, time to find the ultimate predator, the one that hunted everything else. There was a legend on 9. Wu had read all the reports before coming here. 7 experienced hunters had tried to track it. 3 had died. 4 had given up. None had even gotten close. The problem was simple. There was a perfect stealth predator. It left no tracks. It made no sound. It could blend with shadows so completely that sensors could not detect it. Some hunters claimed it could teleport. Others said it was partially invisible. Wu knew better. There was not magic. It was just very, very good at what it did. He spent 3 days searching. He looked for signs that other animals were afraid. He checked places where prey would not go. He examined areas where the thornback never ventured. Nothing that was living up to its reputation. On the 18th day, Wu changed his approach. He stopped hunting instead he let the hunt him. It was a risky strategy, but it was based on human hunting techniques from Earth. Sometimes the best way to find a predator was to make yourself interesting prey. Wu made camp in a small valley. He built a fire this time, big and bright. He cooked food. He made noise. He did everything that would attract attention. Then he pretended to sleep. But he was not sleeping. His eyes were barely open, watching the darkness beyond the firelight. His hand was near his knife. His body was ready to move. The first night, nothing happened. The second night, Wu woke to find his food supply disturbed. Something had taken one of his ration packs, but his drone had recorded nothing. The sensors had detected nothing. Whatever had taken the food had been completely invisible to technology. There was watching him. On the third night, Wu sat by his fire and spoke out loud. "I know you are out there. I am not here to harm you. I just want to understand you." Silence answered him, but it was a different kind of silence. The forest was listening. "On my world," Wu continued, "humans learned to hunt by watching predators like you. We learned patience from cats. We learned cooperation from wolves. We learned strategy from orcas. We became good hunters because we were good learners." Still nothing, but Wu felt a presence. Something was definitely nearby. "You are an apex predator," he said. "The top of the food chain here. Everything else fears you. But I think you are more than that. I think you are intelligent. I think you understand what I am saying right now." A sound, so soft that Wu almost missed it. a small intake of breath from somewhere in the darkness to his left, not in front where he was looking, not behind where he expected, to his left where his peripheral vision could barely reach. Clever, they knew how human eyes worked. Wu did not turn to look. That would be aggressive. Instead, he slowly took out another ration pack. He opened it, ate half, and placed the rest on a rock away from his fire. Then he returned to his spot and lay down. He kept his eyes half closed and waited. Hours passed. The fire burned low. The moons moved across the sky. Then it appeared. Wu saw it from the corner of his eye, a shape that was not quite there. It moved like liquid shadow, flowing from one dark spot to another. It was large, at least the size of an earth tiger, but its exact form was hard to see. It seemed to shift and blur. They approached the food. It paused, looking directly at Wu. He kept his breathing steady. He did not move. He did not look directly at it. The predator took the food. Then it did something unexpected. It sat down, 20 feet from Wu, just sat there watching him. They stayed like that for an hour, two predators studying each other, neither attacking, neither retreating. Finally, the stood and flowed back into the darkness. It was gone as if it had never been there. But Wu's drone had recorded the whole thing. The first clear footage of it that anyone had ever captured. Over the next days, a strange relationship developed. They came to Wu's camp every night. It always approached from a different direction. It always kept its distance. But it came. Wu left food out each time, not as bait, as an offering, a sign of respect. They accepted these offerings, and slowly it began to stay longer. It would sit at the edge of the firelight, just barely visible. Sometimes Wu would talk to it. He would tell it about Earth, about how humans had once been prey too, about how they had learned to survive. He did not know if they understood his words, but it listened. That was enough. One night Wu tried something new. He recorded the calls he had learned. He played them back softly. The ears perked up. It tilted its head, interested. Wu played other sounds, the rumble of a thornback, the buzzing of insects, the calls of various prey animals. They listened to all of them. Sometimes it made small sounds in response, soft chirps and growls that Wu had never heard in any documentation. They had a voice. It had communication. It just rarely chose to use it. By day 21, Wu had a complete record. 3 apex predators fully documented, more information than anyone had ever gathered. Behavioral patterns, social structures, communication methods, territory ranges, hunting techniques, all recorded in detail. His mission was complete. He could call for extraction now and return to the academy as a success. Would have to admit that a human had done the impossible. But Wu did not call for extraction. He had one more idea, a crazy, dangerous, possibly stupid idea, but it was the most human idea he had ever had. He decided to bring them together. Wu knew the territories of all 3 predators. He knew their patterns and schedules. There was one place where all 3 territories overlapped, a small valley with a stream running through it. It was neutral ground, a place where none of them claimed dominance. He made his way there and set up camp. Then he waited for the right time. At dawn, there would be hunting. At midday, the thornback would be resting but alert. At dusk, there would begin its patrol. Wu needed them all active at once. So he created an event, something that would draw their attention. He built a large fire. He played recordings of distress calls from various prey animals. He made noise and light and commotion. He made himself the most interesting thing in the sector. They came first, all 7 of them circling high above, curious about the noise. They recognized Wu, the human who left food. They were not afraid, but they were cautious. The thornback came next. It emerged from the tree line, moving slowly. Its yellow eyes fixed on Wu. It had seen him before too, watching from a distance. It knew he was not normal prey. There was last. It simply appeared from the shadows near the stream. It looked at Wu, then at the Thornback. Three apex predators, all in the same place, all focused on one human. This was the moment when Wu should have been terrified. Any one of these creatures could kill him easily. All three together should have been certain death. But Wu was not afraid. He was excited. He pulled out food containers and placed them on the ground, 3 piles. Then he stepped back to his fire and sat down. "You are all apex predators," he said clearly. "You all rule this place, but you do not have to fight. There is enough for everyone." The 3 predators did not move. They watched him. They watched each other. The tension was incredible. Then they did something that shocked Wu. It walked forward and took food from one of the piles, not aggressively, calmly. It carried the food back to its spot by the stream and began to eat. The leader tilted its head. It called to its pack. They all descended and landed near the second pile of food. They too began to eat, keeping one eye on the other predators. The Thornback was the most cautious. It waited for several minutes, but finally hunger or curiosity won. It moved to the third pile and ate. Wu watched in amazement. 3 species that should have been fighting over territory were sharing a space peacefully, all because a human had invited them to. This was the power of persistence, the power of understanding, the power of respect. This was what made humans apex predators, not claws or venom or armor, but the ability to see other creatures as something more than enemies or prey, the ability to build bridges instead of walls. For 3 hours the predators stayed in that valley. They ate, they rested, they watched each other and Wu. No fights broke out, no one attacked. It was a temporary truce brought about by a simple act of generosity. As the sun began to set, they took flight first. They circled once over Wu, calling softly. Then they flew back to their territory. The Thornback stood and looked at Wu for a long moment. Then it too departed, moving silently into the forest. The remained longest. It approached Wu closer than it ever had before, close enough that Wu could see its eyes clearly. They were gold with black slits, beautiful and intelligent. It made a soft sound, a chirp, then it faded back into the shadows. Wu sat by his fire as night fell. His drone had recorded everything. The impossible meeting, the peaceful gathering, proof that even the deadliest predators could coexist when given the chance. He checked his supplies. He had 3 days of food left. His 3 weeks were almost up. Time to go home. But something had changed. The predators kept visiting his camp. They would fly overhead each day, calling to him. The Thornback would pass by, always acknowledging his presence with a small nod of its massive head. They came every night, sitting by his fire like a strange companion. They had accepted him, not as prey, not as a threat, as something else. An equal perhaps, or at least something worth knowing. On day 25, Wu received a message on his communicator. It was Bomi. "Wu, are you still alive? You have 3 days until extraction. Everyone is worried. Please respond." He smiled and recorded a message back. "I am alive. I am well. Tell I will be on time for extraction, and tell him I am bringing guests." There was a long pause before Bomi responded. "Guests? What do you mean guests?" "He will see," Wu said. 3 guests, the exact 3 he assigned me to hunt." Another pause. "Wu, you cannot. It is impossible to capture them. They are too dangerous." "I did not capture them," Wu explained. "They are coming voluntarily. Well, I hope they are. I am going to ask them tomorrow." "Ask them? Wu, have you lost your mind?" Maybe he had, but it felt right. These predators were intelligent. They understood communication. They had learned to trust him over 3 weeks together. Maybe, just maybe, they would understand one more request. Tomorrow would be day 26. Wu would make his proposal. Either the predators would agree or they would not. Either way, it would be the most human thing he had ever done. Asking the deadliest predators in the galaxy to voluntarily come meet his teacher, just to prove a point. Day 26 started like any other morning on 9. Wu woke before dawn and rebuilt his fire. He ate a simple breakfast and checked his equipment. Everything was ready for extraction in 2 days. His documentation was complete. His mission was successful. But Wu had never been content with just successful. He wanted to prove something bigger, something that would change how the galaxy saw humans forever. They arrived first, as they always did at dawn. They circled overhead, calling their morning greetings. Wu had learned to recognize their different calls. This one meant, "We see you, friend." He called back to them using a recording he had made, a simple greeting sound. They responded with excited chirps. They understood. Wu pulled out his portable hologram projector. It was a simple device, meant for displaying maps and data, but he had programmed something special into it last night. He activated it. The image of the extraction ship appeared, floating above his hand. Then the image showed the ship landing and Wu boarding it. They tilted their heads, watching curiously. Wu played the sequence again. Then he added new images, the following him onto the ship flying up through the clouds. Then he showed the academy, the landing pad, lots of different species watching with curiosity and respect. He showed himself and the together, surrounded by amazed onlookers. Finally, he showed the return journey, the flying back to 9, free and unharmed. The lead watched the entire sequence. Then it made a sound Wu had never heard before, a long, complex call that the other repeated. They flew in a circle, discussing among themselves. Wu waited. He knew they were intelligent. He knew they could understand concepts like travel and return. The question was whether they trusted him enough to accept. The lead landed near Wu. It walked right up to him, closer than any of them had ever come. It looked at the hologram, then at Wu. Then it bowed its head slightly. Yes, it would come. The other called their agreement. All 7 of them would accompany him. Wu felt his heart racing. 1 species down, 2 to go. The thornback was more difficult. It appeared at midday as Wu expected, but communicating with it was harder. The thornback did not have the same social nature as it was solitary by nature. Wu showed it the same hologram sequence. The thornback watched with its glowing yellow eyes. It made no sound. It simply stared. Then it turned and walked away. Wu's heart sank. He had been so sure that all 3 would agree, but maybe the thornback was too independent, too set in its ways, too. The thornback stopped at the edge of the clearing. It looked back at Wu. Then it made a low rumbling sound, not aggressive, more like thoughtful. It walked a few more steps and looked back again. Wu understood. The thornback wanted him to follow. He grabbed his gear and followed the massive creature through the forest. The thornback led him to its den, the cave system where it lived. Wu had seen the entrance before but had never gone inside. The thornback entered the cave. It looked back at Wu, waiting. This was a test, an invitation. The thornback's den was its most private space. Bringing Wu there meant something. Wu entered carefully. The cave was surprisingly clean. Old bones were stacked neatly in one corner. A small pool of fresh water sat in another. The thornback had organized its space with care. In the back of the cave, Wu saw something that made him stop. Marks on the wall, scratches that formed patterns, not random, deliberate. The thornback had made art, simple shapes and lines but clearly intentional. This creature did not just hunt and eat. It thought, it created, it had culture. The thornback touched the wall with one massive claw. It looked at Wu, then at the marks, then back at Wu. Wu pulled out his scanner and recorded the art carefully. He treated it with the same respect he would give any cultural artifact, because that was what it was. The thornback watched him record everything. Then it made a sound, a deep rumble that Wu felt in his chest, agreement, satisfaction. The thornback would come, but only because Wu had shown respect for its intelligence, for its individuality, for its art. They walked back to Wu's camp together. The thornback settled near the fire, a position of trust. Two species agreed, one left. There was the wild card. It appeared at dusk as always, but tonight it looked different, more solid, less like shadow and more like flesh. Wu realized what was happening. There was choosing to be visible. It was dropping its camouflage. This was what it really looked like. It was beautiful. Its fur was deep black with patterns that seemed to shift in the firelight. Its body was sleek and powerful. Its face was almost cat-like, with large golden eyes and small, rounded ears. It looked dangerous but also somehow gentle. It sat in its usual spot. It watched as Wu showed the hologram sequence. It paid careful attention to every detail. When the sequence ended, it stood. It walked around Wu in a slow circle, examining him, judging him. Then it did something incredible. It made a sound like purring, a deep, rumbling purr that seemed to come from its entire body. And then it rubbed its head against Wu's shoulder. Wu stood very still. This was a gesture of affection, of complete trust. The galaxy's most dangerous predator was showing him love. Slowly, carefully, Wu reached up and touched this head. Its fur was incredibly soft, warm, real. It purred louder. Then it stepped back and sat down. It looked at Wu with those golden eyes. Yes, it would come too. Wu could hardly believe it. All three apex predators had agreed. They would accompany him to the academy. They would help him prove his point. That night was special. All three predators came to his camp at once. They roosted in nearby trees. The thornback lay by the fire. They sat beside Wu, occasionally accepting gentle pets. They were at peace. Three species that normally competed for territory were sharing space without conflict, because a human had taught them that sharing was possible. Wu spoke to them all. Tomorrow we begin the journey to the extraction point. It will take one full day to walk there. I need you to trust me. I need you to stay calm when you see other humans and other species. They may be frightened at first, but I will protect you, I promise. The predators listened. They chirped softly. The thornback rumbled, they purred. They understood, or at least they trusted him enough to try. Day 27 was the longest walk of Wu's life. He led the way, following his scanner toward the extraction zone. Behind him came an impossible parade. The seven flew overhead, keeping pace. The thornback walked beside him, its massive feet shaking the ground slightly with each step. They moved like liquid through the undergrowth, appearing and disappearing but always nearby. Other creatures in the forest fled at the sight of them. Birds went silent. Small animals hid. Even other predators avoided this strange group. They were the apex of the apex, the top predators of 9, all moving together. They made camp one last time that night. Wu shared out his remaining food equally among all the predators. It was his last act as their companion here in the wild. Tomorrow changes everything, he told them. Tomorrow you will see my world, my people. They may not understand you at first, but I will help them learn, just like you helped me learn. They rested its head on Wu's lap. The thornback closed its eyes peacefully. They sang a soft evening song. This was trust. This was partnership. This was what hunting could be when done with respect instead of dominance. Day 28, Extraction Day. Wu and his 3 predator species arrived at the extraction zone at dawn. It was a large clearing with a marked landing pad. His communicator showed that the ship would arrive in 1 hour. He sent a message to the academy. This is Cadet Wu. I am ready for extraction. I am bringing 3 indigenous species with me as requested in my mission parameters. They are coming voluntarily. Please inform all personnel to remain calm upon arrival. The response came from Bomi. Wu, you are alive, we were so worried. Wait, did you say you are bringing the predators with you? Affirmative, Wu replied. 7 1 thornback and 1, all docile, all cooperative, all willing participants. There was a long silence. Then Administrator Moss' voice came through. "Cadet Wu, this is highly irregular. Are you certain these creatures are not aggressive?" "Completely certain, Administrator. I have spent 3 weeks earning their trust. They will not harm anyone unless threatened. I stake my life on it." Another pause. "Very well, we will prepare a reception, but security will be on standby if anything goes wrong." "Nothing will go wrong," Wu said firmly. "I promise you." The extraction ship appeared in the sky right on schedule. It descended slowly, its engines roaring. They shifted nervously at the noise, but Wu called to them softly. They settled. The Thornback watched the ship with interest. It had never seen technology before, but it did not seem afraid, just curious. They stayed close to Wu. It trusted him, but this was all very new. The ship landed. The door opened. A security team emerged first, weapons ready but not raised. Behind them came Bomi. She saw Wu standing there, surrounded by the 3 deadliest creatures on 9, and her jaw dropped. "Hello, Bomi," Wu said with a smile. "I would like you to meet my friends." The leader chirped a greeting. The Thornback rumbled. The incredibly stepped forward and bowed its head toward Bomi. Bomi stood frozen. Then slowly, carefully, she bowed back. "It is nice to meet you all," she said quietly. Wu gestured toward the ship. "Shall we go? I believe Instructor is waiting for his report." The predators followed him onto the ship without hesitation. They had to be careful with their wings in the narrow corridors. The Thornback had to duck to fit through doors. They moved like water, adapting to the strange environment. As the ship lifted off, Wu looked out the window at 9 shrinking below. He had come here as a student trying to pass a test. He was leaving as something more. He was leaving as a human who had remembered what made his species special. Not strength, not weapons, not dominance. Understanding, patience, respect. The ship broke through the atmosphere. Next stop, the Galactic Academy, where Instructor was about to learn a very important lesson about humans and hunting. The news spread through the academy faster than light. A human cadet was returning from 9 with 3 apex predators. Not data, not recordings, the actual living creatures, voluntarily. By the time the extraction ship approached the academy's landing platform, nearly every student and instructor had gathered to watch. The crowd stood at a safe distance behind security barriers. Armed guards were positioned around the landing pad. Medical teams stood ready. Everyone expected disaster. Instructor stood at the front of the crowd, his 4 arms crossed over his chest. His expression was skeptical. Next to him stood several other instructors, including Administrator Ma, the only other human on the teaching staff. "This is a waste of time," muttered. "The human probably drugged them, or used some kind of technological restraint. There is no other explanation." Ma said nothing. She just watched the ship descend with careful eyes. The ship landed smoothly. The engines powered down. The landing ramp extended. The crowd held its breath. Wu appeared first, walking down the ramp with calm confidence. He looked tired and dirty but healthy. Behind him came the impossible sight. 7 emerged into the sunlight. Their blue wings spread wide as they flew out of the ship and circled the landing pad once. The crowd gasped. These were legendary hunters, and they were here, flying freely without restraints. The Thornback came next. Its massive form filled the doorway of the ship. Its armor-plated body gleamed as it walked down the ramp, each step deliberate and controlled. Several security guards took an involuntary step backward. The Thornback paid them no attention. It focused only on Wu. Finally, they appeared. Most of the crowd could not see it clearly at first. It was like looking at a piece of darkness that moved independently. But as it walked closer to Wu, it became more visible, more solid. The crowd could see its sleek black form and golden eyes. The most feared predator in the preserve, walking calmly beside a human like a trusted companion. His mouth hung open in shock. Around him, the other instructors stared in disbelief. Students whispered frantically to each other. Security guards gripped their weapons but did not know what to do. Wu stopped in the center of the landing pad. The three predator species arranged themselves around him. The landed on the ground nearby. The thornback stood to his right. The sat to his left. "Instructor," Wu said clearly, his voice carried across the silent crowd. "I have returned from 9. I have completed my assignment. I have documented 3 apex predators as requested. I have brought proof of my encounters." Finally found his voice. This is not possible. How did you capture them? What technology did you use?" "I used no technology beyond my recording drone," Wu replied. "And I did not capture them. They came with me by choice." "Ridiculous," stepped forward. "These are wild predators. They cannot be reasoned with. They are driven by instinct and hunger. You must have used some trick." The growled softly at its aggressive tone. It stood and moved closer to Wu protectively. The thornback shifted its weight, ready to defend. They spread their wings, their sonic screeches beginning to build. "Please do not threaten me," Wu said calmly. "You are making my friends nervous." Stopped, he looked at the 3 species now clearly protecting the human. His worldview was cracking. "They are defending you." "They are showing loyalty," Wu corrected. "Because I showed them respect. Because I took the time to understand them. Because I did not try to dominate them but to communicate with them." Bomi stepped forward from the crowd. Next to her were Yang and Da, the other human cadets. "Show them, Wu," Bomi called. "Show them what you learned." Wu nodded. He pulled out his portable hologram projector and displayed the first recording. 3 weeks of footage played in fast forward. Wu watching the predators, learning their patterns, leaving food, making contact, building trust. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the story unfolded. They saw Wu spend days just observing. They saw him approach without weapons. They saw him share his food and his fire. They saw the moment when the first sat beside him, when they accepted him into their presence, when the thornback showed him its cave art. "This is not hunting as you teach it, instructor," Wu said as the recordings played. "This is not about proving dominance. This is not about who is stronger or faster or more deadly." He gestured to the predators around him. "These creatures are intelligent, they have social structures, they communicate, they create, they feel emotions. They are not mindless killing machines. They are people in their own way." Shook his head. "Even if what you say is true, this proves nothing. You spent 3 weeks with them in their environment. Of course they tolerated you there. But here, in a new place, they will turn on you, they will become aggressive. You will see." "Will I?" Wu asked softly. He turned to the leader. He made the greeting call he had learned. The responded with a happy chirp. Then Wu held out his arm. The hopped forward and perched on his forearm, its claws carefully positioned to not hurt him. The crowd gasped again. Known for its vicious attacks, sitting calmly on a human's arm. Wu turned to the thornback. He approached it slowly and placed his hand on its armored head. The massive creature rumbled contentedly. It leaned into his touch like it enjoyed the contact. Finally, Wu knelt beside the predator that no one had ever gotten close to. He scratched behind its ears. The purred loudly enough for the whole crowd to hear. Then it licked Wu's face with a tongue the size of a dinner plate. Laughter rippled through some of the students. The deadly was acting like an oversized pet. "You see," Wu said, standing up, "these predators are not our enemies. They are not conquests to be claimed. They are beings worthy of respect and understanding." He looked directly at, "You said humans cannot hunt. You were wrong. We are apex predators on a death world, but we did not get there through strength alone. We got there through intelligence, through patience, through the ability to see other creatures as something more than prey or competition." Wu gestured to the crowd. "Look around this academy. We have dozens of species here, species that evolved on different worlds. species that would naturally be competitors or predators and prey. Yet we all learn together. We all work together. Why? Because we chose cooperation over conflict. He paused. That is the human way of hunting. We hunt for understanding first. We hunt for partnership. We hunt for coexistence. We became the dominant species on Earth not by killing everything else, but by learning to live alongside everything else. By domesticating wolves into dogs, by partnering with horses, by studying whales and learning from eagles. The chirped in agreement, the thornback rumbled, the purred. Administrator Ma stepped forward. She was smiling. Cadet Wu, your documentation is clearly extensive. I think we would all benefit from a full presentation of your findings. These creatures demonstrate intelligence far beyond what our current research suggested. She turned to Instructor, would you agree that this changes our understanding of apex predators? Scales had lost some of their shine. He looked diminished somehow. Smaller. This is unprecedented. I have been teaching predatory theory for 30 years. Never have I seen anything like this. Then perhaps, Ma said gently, it is time to expand your theory, to include not just the physical aspects of hunting, but the psychological and social aspects as well. To recognize that intelligence and empathy can be as powerful as claws and venom. Looked at Wu, really looked at him for the first time, not as a weak human, not as an inferior student, but as someone who had accomplished something extraordinary. Hal asked simply, how did you do this? Wu smiled. Persistence. Humans are persistence predators, Instructor. On Earth, our ancestors would hunt by running prey to exhaustion, not with speed but with endurance. We would track an animal for hours, sometimes days, until it could not run anymore. We outlasted everything. He gestured to the predators. I applied the same principle here, not to exhaust them physically but to persist in showing them respect. Day after day, week after week, I outlasted their suspicion. I persisted until they understood I was not a threat. And the partnership, asked, how did you establish that? By offering value without demanding anything in return, Wu explained. I shared food, I shared space. I showed interest in their lives without trying to control them. I gave them a choice, and they chose to trust me. He looked at the three species around him. That is what makes humans apex predators, not our teeth or claws, our ability to form bonds with other species, to communicate across species barriers, to build relationships where others only see competition. A student called out from the crowd. It was but how do we know they will not attack someone else? They trust you, but what about the rest of us? It was a good question. Wu had thought about this. Let me show you, he said. He turned to Bomi. Bomi, would you come here, please? Bomi hesitated, then walked forward slowly. She stopped a few meters away from the predators, clearly nervous. It is okay, Wu said. I will introduce you properly. He made a series of calls and gestures. The leader tilted its head, watching Bomi. Wu spoke softly to it, explaining in simple terms that Bomi was a friend, that she was pack, that she was safe. The hopped down from Wu's arm. It walked toward Bomi slowly. Bomi stayed very still, her eyes wide. The stopped in front of her. Then it bowed its head, just as it had done for Wu weeks ago. Slowly Bomi bowed back. The made a happy chirp and hopped around her once. Then it returned to Wu. See, Wu said, they can learn to accept others, as long as those others show respect. Over the next hour, several brave students came forward to meet the predators. Each time, Wu made proper introductions. Each time, the predators accepted the new person without aggression. The thornback let Yang touch its armor. The allowed Da to sit near it. The sang for a group of fascinated students. Finally approached, he moved carefully, his confidence shaken. He stopped in front of the. I have taught that you were a mindless killing machine, said to the creature. I was wrong, I see that now. The looked at him with those golden eyes. For a long moment nothing happened. Then the dipped its head slightly, a small gesture of acknowledgement, not submission, not forgiveness, just recognition that the was learning. Looked at Wu. You have taught me something I should have known long ago, that being an apex predator is not about dominance, it is about adaptation, about intelligence, about understanding. He placed one of his hands over his heart in a gesture of respect. I apologize, Cadet Wu, for underestimating you, for underestimating your species. You have proven yourself to be a true hunter, perhaps the truest here. The crowd erupted in applause. Students cheered. Even some of the instructors clapped. Administrator Ma stepped forward. Cadet Wu, on behalf of the Academy, I would like to offer you a position, not as a student but as an instructor. We need someone who can teach what you have learned. Communication, ethical predation, the art of peaceful coexistence. Wu blinked in surprise. Me, an instructor. You have accomplished what no one else has, Ma said. You have proven that intelligence and empathy can achieve what force cannot. That is a lesson every hunter in this galaxy needs to learn. Wu looked at his three companions. The Thornback. They had taught him as much as he had taught them. I accept, he said, but on one condition. These three must be allowed to stay at the Academy as participants in the learning process, so that future students can learn from them directly. Ma smiled. I think that can be arranged, though we will need to build appropriate habitats for them. The made a soft sound. It looked at Wu, then at the Academy building, then back at Wu. It seemed to be asking a question. Wu laughed. Yes, you can visit my quarters sometimes, but you have to promise not to scare the other students. The predator purred in agreement. Over the following weeks, Wu became the Academy's most popular instructor. His classes on communication were always full. Students from every species came to learn his methods, to understand his philosophy. The three predators became permanent residents of the Academy. They were given a large aviary where students could observe and interact with them. The Thornback had a cave system built to its specifications, complete with walls it could mark with its art. They roamed freely through the Academy grounds, terrifying new students until they learned it was friendly. His classes changed too. He began teaching not just physical hunting techniques, but also the mental and emotional aspects. He invited Wu to co-teach several sessions. The old was humble enough to learn from his former student. One evening, several months later, Wu sat in his office reviewing lesson plans. There was curled up on a large cushion in the corner, dozing peacefully. A knock came at the door. Come in, Wu called. It was, the instructor looked uncertain. May I speak with you? Of course, instructor. Please call me. I think we are colleagues now. They sat together. The opened one eye, assessed that there was no danger, and went back to sleep. I wanted to thank you, said, for teaching me, for showing me that my understanding of hunting was incomplete. You were not wrong, Wu said. Physical advantages matter. Speed and strength and natural weapons are important. You taught me to respect those advantages. But I missed the bigger picture, said. I thought hunting was only about the kill, about dominance, about proving superiority. And now I understand that the greatest hunters are not always the strongest. They are the most adaptable, the most intelligent, the most willing to learn, he smiled. Like humans. Wu smiled back. We are not the only ones. Every species has unique advantages, have their strength and speed, have their powerful jaws, have their coordination. Humans have their persistence and empathy. And together, said, we are stronger than any of us alone. Exactly. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, then stood. I should go. I just wanted you to know that you have changed how I see the universe, for the better. After he left, Wu looked at the creature opened both eyes and looked back at him. Who would have thought, Wu said to it, a human and three apex predators all working together, all learning from each other. The Purdit's Agreement. Outside the window, they flew through the evening sky, their calls echoing across the academy grounds. Somewhere below, the thornback was in its cave, adding new art to its walls. Students from a dozen species walked the paths, talking and laughing together. The galaxy was a dangerous place. It always would be. But Wu had proven something important, that the deadliest predator was not the one with the biggest claws or the sharpest teeth. It was the one who understood that cooperation was stronger than competition, that empathy was more powerful than aggression, that the apex predator was not the one who conquered everything else, but the one who learned to live with everything else. And in a galaxy full of hunters, that made humans the most dangerous predators of all, not because they could kill, but because they could convince others not to. That was true power, that was the human way. And that was why, when Instructor had claimed humans could not hunt, he had been fundamentally wrong. Humans were the ultimate hunters. They just hunted for something different than everyone else. They hunted for understanding, for connection, for peace. And they always caught what they hunted, because humans were persistence predators. They never gave up.